Mmachi worked hard and was eager to master the skills she was being taught. Nnabife was pleased with her progress. He was proud of her and often bragged about her to his friends. Nnabife's love and show of support was just for the public validation. At home, he was a different person, a control freak. He dictated Mmachi's every move, from what she wore to whom she spoke to, leaving her little room to breathe. Once upon a time in Iza lived a girl named Mmachi. She was the third of 9 children. Her 2 elder sisters got married after the death of their father at 20 and 18 years of age. Mmachi was 16-year-old and had to take on the responsibilities of helping her mother Ada with her akara business. Ada enrolled Mmachi in an afternoon school so she could help her with the akara business every morning before going to school and join her in the shop later in the evening after school. Mmachi and her mother Ada struggled each day to make enough money to feed the family and pay their school fees. Ada was a hardworking woman, but the weight of her family's needs were weighing her down, but she managed to scrap by. One day, Nnabife, a man who lived in the city but frequently visited Iza, came to buy akara from them. He was a regular customer, always stopping by for Ada's akara whenever he was in town. Nnabife was a fair, tall and well-dressed man. His complexion and fashion sense was what set him apart from other villagers. They praised him and nicknamed him Nwokocha, which means white man. "Good morning, Mama Mmachi and Mmachi," he greeted them with a warm smile as he approached their shop. "Good morning, sir," they both replied in unison. Nnabife sat down, placed his usual order, and was chatting with Ada as Mmachi served him. He had a way of making everyone feel at ease with his tiny voice. As time marched forward, his visits became more frequent and his conversations with Mmachi's mother more prolonged. "You know, Mama Mmachi, your akara is the best I've ever tasted." Ada laughed and thanked him. As the morning wore on and customers came and went and Nnabife remained in Ada's shop, Mmachi wondered what his interest in their family was. She felt there was more to his visit than the akara whenever he looked at her. And this made her uncomfortable, but she brushed it off as paranoia. After all, he was just a customer. Time went on and Nnabife's visits became even more frequent. Each time he came, he would stay a little longer with his eyes fixed on Mmachi. One late afternoon, after the rush of customers had reduced and they were packing up to go home and get some rest and prepare for their evening sales, as Mmachi was now 22 years old and had finished from secondary school, Nnabife approached them with a serious expression. He greeted them as usual. "I've been thinking a lot about you and your family, Mama Mmachi. I see how much you sacrifice for your family. And I'm convinced that any girl you raise would be a good wife material. I want to marry Mmachi, your daughter, and take her to the city. I want to offer her a better life." Mmachi had suspected this was coming, but hearing it out loud made it real. She kept her eyes down, hoping her mother would reject the proposal. "A better life?" she asked. "I will provide for her and help support your family as well." Ada felt a sign of relief, but her daughter did not want to marry Nnabife. She barely knew him, and what she did know about him didn't sit well with her. She hoped her mother would outrightly reject the proposal, but Ada appreciated Nnabife's offer and told him that Mmachi was young and unsure and should be given some time to think about it. Nnabife agreed she should take her time, and then told Ada that he would be back in a week so they could discuss it further. When they got home that afternoon, Ada broached the subject again. Mmachi, you heard Nnabife. He wants to marry you and take care of us. My daughter, I could tell you don't like him from the way you look at him whenever he was in the shop. But I want you to know that this could be a good opportunity for a better life for us all. Mmachi felt terrified by the idea of marrying Nnabife and leaving her family behind, but she knew her mother's situation. She looked around at her siblings, their innocent, hopeful, and trusting faces. She knew they depended on her and her mother, but marrying a man she didn't love, a man she didn't even like. But Mama, I don't know him. What if he's not a good man? I understand your fears, my daughter, but we have to think about the future. We can't keep living like this forever. Sometimes we have to take risks for the sake of our family. Mmachi knew her mother was right, but it didn't make the decision any easier. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as she pondered on her duty to her family and her own desires. The week passed quickly and Mmachi tried to talk to her mother again, to make her see that marrying Nnabife was not the right choice. But Ada was firm in her belief that it was their best chance for a better future. On the appointed day, Nnabife returned to Ada's shop. He greeted them, sat and placed his usual order as he waited for an answer. Nnabife, we've thought about your proposal and Mmachi is willing to marry you. Mmachi was sad, but she had no other choice. She couldn't let her family continue to suffer. Nnabife was happy and he said to her, "Thank you, Mmachi. I promise you won't regret this." The marriage arrangements were made quickly, and within a week they were married in a simple ceremony. Mmachi's younger siblings were sad she was leaving them, but she promised to be there for them. Mmachi moved into her husband's one-bedroom apartment in a faraway town. He showed her around, explaining the various amenities in his house to her with pride. "You will have everything you need here, Mmachi, and if there is anything you want, just let me know." Mmachi nodded. She tried to fake a smile. She was not happy leaving her family behind and stepping into a life she didn't want, but she had made her choice and now she had to live with it. As days passed, Nnabife enrolled Mmachi into a hairdressing salon where she would learn how to make hair. She was grateful for the opportunity even though her heart wasn't in it. She knew that becoming a skilled hairdresser would give her some measure of independence. The salon was a busy place, filled with women chatting and laughing as they got their hair done. Mmachi felt out of place at first, but the other trainees were friendly and she slowly began to feel more comfortable. Her madam was a poker-faced but kind woman. Mmachi worked hard and was eager to master the skills she was being taught. Nnabife was pleased with her progress. He was proud of her and often bragged about her to his friends. Nnabife's love and show of support was just for the public validation. At home, he was a different person, a control freak. He dictated Mmachi's every move, from what she wore to whom she spoke to, leaving her little room to breathe. Most times in her workplace, happy clients tipped them, and she saved every penny she got from the share as she hoped to open her own salon one day. Weeks turned into months and Mmachi was done learning how to make hair. Her boss wanted to retain her so she could work for her, but she was already pregnant at this time, and so she couldn't work for her. She was happy she would become a mother, but she also feared the added strain it would place on her already difficult marriage. Nnabife was thrilled at the prospect of becoming a father. He doted on Mmachi during the pregnancy, showered her with gifts and affection. When their son Nnanna was born, Mmachi's heart was filled with gratitude. She poured out all the love she has in her into her little prince and prayed to give him the childhood filled with love and security which she never had. But Nnabife's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He spent more time at home, claiming he was looking for new business opportunities. But Mmachi suspected he was simply avoiding work. His mood swings became more severe and he often took out his frustrations on Mmachi, though he never laid a hand on her. But Mmachi endured a marriage where verbal abuse was the order of the day. Hoping it would pass, Mmachi overlooked the odds in the marriage and focused on her son and her dream of opening a salon. Nnabife could not open a salon for her, so she started making people's hair in their house, and sometimes she goes to her client's house. She continued to save every little she could, and as days went by, she opened a small shop where she made people's hair. Mmachi was so skilled in her job, and people came from her neighborhood and beyond to make their hair in her shop. Time passed, and Mmachi realized that she had married a man without a stable source of income. He only goes to the market to market other people's goods, and if he is lucky to make sales, he takes his own percentage. The one culture they used to know before the marriage has turned to blackie. He was using bleaching cream and had bleached his skin, making them see him as a white man. 2 years after Nnanna's birth, Mmachi discovered she was pregnant again. The pregnancy was a difficult one, and she found herself increasingly exhausted after work in her salon. She couldn't stop working even if she wanted because Nnabife had no job at the time. She relied on him to help with chores, but Nnabife stayed home and did nothing to help ease her stress. He would eat and sleep all day, and when Mmachi gets back from work, she would go and fetch water, cook, and wash plates. When it was time to deliver her baby, she bore a set of twins, a boy and a girl. The birth of the twins brought joy into their home, but the joy was short-lived as the twin girl fell ill and died. Mmachi was devastated by the loss of her daughter. She wanted a shoulder to lean on, but Nnabife's shoulder was far from her as he spent less time at home. Mmachi's business grew with each passing day, and since Nnabife was not doing anything, she bought him a motorcycle to drive around their neighborhood and make money to support the family. Nnabife was happy, but he never took the job seriously. He leaves the house every day after the people he was meant to carry must have all gone to work and closed by 4:30 p.m. every day, the time that workers would be coming back from work, and never rode his motorcycle any day it rained. Mmachi took care of so much responsibilities. One day, Nnabife told Mmachi that their lands in the village have been shared and they will need to develop theirs anytime there is money. Mmachi was happy. She had always dreamed of having a home, a place where her children could call theirs. She quickly agreed to Nnabife's idea and gave him the money she had saved, hoping it would bring them closer to their dream. Despite Mmachi's sacrifice for the family, Nnabife never treated her like a human being. He was just a naturally wicked person. He cared less about anyone but himself. As time went by, his behavior grew from bad to worse. He spent most of his days at home, claiming he was too ill to work. And if Mmachi tried to speak to him, he would abuse her and her generations, including past and future. Mmachi told her mother all she was going through. Ada had already seen that the man she had considered to be their messiah was a pauper just like them. But because of gossips, what people would say if Mmachi returned home, she asked her to stay and be patient. Mmachi endured the tantrums of the evil man she married, a man who had zero love for anyone, not even his children. He was more like a monster. As the years went by, Mmachi discovered she was pregnant again for the fourth time. She wanted to birth another child into the world, but she feared her body couldn't handle the strain. She tried to take care of herself, but Nnabife's demands and abuse made it difficult. After the birth of her last son, Mmachi fell ill. She rapidly lost weight and her body weakened with each past day. Nnabife's response was cold and dismissive. He accused her of being cursed and refused to take her to the hospital. Instead, he took his children to get tested for HIV, fearing that Mmachi might have been infected. When the test came back negative, he felt happy at least his children were safe, as though he even cared about them. He locked Mmachi in a room, denying her access to medical care and proper nutrition. Mmachi's condition worsened, and she felt her life slipping away. She was too weak to fight back, too tired to hope for a miracle. Her siblings and neighbors came to help, but her husband refused them access to her. They sneaked into her house to give her medicine, as they encouraged and offered the little comfort they could when Nnabife was not around. But their efforts were not enough to help. Her children stopped going to school as their father could not pay their fees. Her first two sons started doing menial jobs. One night, she called her children, prayed for their safety, their future, and for the strength to endure what lay ahead. And by 11:30 p.m., she took her last breath. Her passing was quiet and peaceful. Her suffering finally came to an end. Nnabife immediately discovered her lifeless body, but showed no emotion. He simply told the children that their mother was gone, as if she was just a mere fowl. They all slept until morning. It was a Saturday morning, which happened to be a sanitation day. Their neighbors were around for cleanup. Nnabife's behavior was with no difference, nothing to show that he lost something, not to talk of his wife, the mother of his kids. At this time, the wife's dead body was still in the room. It was until a neighbor asked him how his wife was faring that morning that he said, "My brother, this woman has left us so." The neighbor was shocked. At first, he didn't get him. "Left you how? I don't understand." "She died last night around 11:30 p.m. The neighbor raised alarm with his exclamation, and the other neighbors gathered, and soon message was sent to Mmachi's family. The people were outraged and blamed Nnabife for Mmachi's untimely demise. They wanted justice, but their immediate concern was for the children she left behind. Nnanna, now the eldest at just 15, felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had promised his mother he would take care of his brothers, and he intended to keep that promise. But he was just a child himself, and the responsibility was overwhelming. After Mmachi was buried, Nnabife continued his neglectful ways, leaving the children to fend for themselves. He refused to let Mmachi's siblings take them in, insisting they were his responsibility, even though he did nothing to care for them. The children had stopped going to school before their mother's demise, and he never enrolled them back to school. They spent their days scavenging for food and doing odd jobs to survive. The neighbors and Mmachi's siblings did what they could to help, but their resources were limited. They brought food and clothing, offered a kind word and a comforting hug, but it was never enough. The children were left in the harsh world to survive on their own. Nana took on the role of a caretaker and giver, doing his best to provide for his brothers with their futures uncertain. People who knew Mmachi never spent a day without laying a curse on Nnabife for his wickedness. In Mmachi's sick bed, she never stopped lamenting of how her mother had ruined her life by letting her marry and remain married to the blue-eye monster Nnabife. Even when it was obvious that Nnabife had no love in his heart for anyone, Mmachi's children suffered like poor orphans with no help whilst their father was alive. Nana and his immediate younger brother continued to work tirelessly and did everything they could to keep their brothers safe and fed. The children never forgot their mother's sacrifices. They knew that life could never be easy, but they resolved to honor their mother's memory by building a better life for themselves.
Hello, favorite one. Thanks for listening to my stories. Your support means the world to me, and I couldn't do this without you. Your likes, comments, and shares keep me motivated to create more stories. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell so you never miss out on any of my new stories. Thanks again, and see you in the next story.